This next fellow is a glorious human being, as is Harvey. And he's another one who has been able to just bring it down to the bone. As bucolic as subject matter can be in his opuses, there is an underlying truth that cuts right to the core of consciousness itself. It gives me great pleasure. Walter Worden.
Thank you, Hayden, and thank you all. This morning I came across an old notebook that I've been jotting notes and half poems and lines into, and I thought I'd read a piece from it. It's in my nervous scrawl, so I hope I don't stumble. If we come into the world as infants and leave infant-like, then what are we to make of the interim? What are we to expect of experience if our due is merely to return to dirt? Unless we have come armed with the necessary knowledge to not only survive, but to contribute to the species. But we build bombs and warehouse bodies, changing water into blood. Creativity is given to the making of lies to form the cover stories. So it is what it is, dust to dust to dust, and a time with the devil in between. Thank you. Near my home, near Middletown, a local American Legion post seemed to take over a swatch of land, and they built a little memorial park on it. And often I drive by it, and this poem came from that. The Purple Heart Memorial. The little swatch of green ground hard by the railroad underpass, over which the twice daily eastbound freight rattles toward the garish lights and spewing smokestacks of tri-state commerce, there appears as an outpost in the mad gray crush of rampant suburbia, a modest memorial to the nation's fallen, in the middle of which a flagpole garnished by the nation's banner stands beside a tiny replica of Lady Liberty and a respectfully painted sign proclaiming the high cost of freedom, above and beyond what would be symbolized on any budgetary pie chart, underscored by the life-size sculpted legless veteran occupying in perpetuity one end of the single park bench. A stationary sentinel on duty in rain and wind and harrowing blizzard, meant to be symbolic of the flesh and blood expense of war, whether it be for liberty and lasting peace, or merely a more generous piece of the pie. Now, I'll leave you with two of my more typical poems. They're both, one's an obad, and well, they both are relative to morning. This is entitled, Untitled at 6 a.m. This morning, even before coffee, when the sun has not yet reached over the frosted trees, I go out into the crisp, stinging air to clear the sidewalk of last night's snow, scraping the shovel's rusted edge across the time-worried and foot-worn concrete, from doorstep to driveway, creating a dark path in the otherwise flat, white, undefiled prairie, beneath which my front yard hibernates. Though I have internet and telephone, the creation of this trace is my connection to the world, my way to the main road, the means to get myself to somewhere else, though there may not be anywhere I need to go, with a fridge full of food and piles of books beside my bed. Yet I might have reason to ensure myself a route of escape, So to be in a world where snow falls and is felt cold upon the skin, thus providing a simple pleasure. When returning to the welcoming heat of my house, I sit down with a mug of coffee and a warming book and think of how cold I was and now am not. And I leave you with Obad. Slow light eases over sill to reach carpet and coffee table, to climb bookcase and wing chair, a conqueror of a kind, reclaiming territory taken in dark usurpation, liberating life from shadows, changing lack of to full of, allowing the sight of things, the renewal of prospects, and the prospect of renewal, the startling promise of fresh possibilities, showing both bird and creeping mammal what still is and what still can be. So to rouse me to rise, though often encumbered by age, to let brightness brush softly my raw brow, as if I too am beginning, becoming, shining. Thank you.